We'll go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Claudia, and I'm on the marketing team here at Proformex. And before we get to today's presentation, which is a first installment of a new series we're doing here at Proformex, I just want to review a couple housekeeping items with you. First things first, this session is being recorded, and we will share the recording once today's session is finished before the end of the week, so you will get a copy of that in your email. And if you have questions as we go along, feel free to drop those either in the chat box or the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom toolbox there. And our presenters will reserve time for a Q&A session at the end. So all questions will be addressed at the end of today's session. Without further ado, I'm going to hand things off to one of our presenters today, our CEO, Kris Beck.
All right. Thank you, Claudia, and welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We have been on the road at conferences, and it's been great to connect with people again, just in person. And hopefully we've seen some of you along the way. And what I wanted to do today was, we're really going to talk about insurance innovation and action and what we've been seeing or what we've been doing for the for the industry at this point, and where, what we've done, where we're at now, and also where we're headed. So today we're going to have some updates from our CTO, Amanda Yoho, about how we see, the analytics and sort of intelligence in our platform evolving over time. And we'll also hear from our VP of Sales, Lytle. And Kelly's really going to take us through some examples of how we see the tool being used, best practices, and share that with you today. So hopefully you'll get a lot of valuable ideas today as we go through not only where we're headed, but also the best practices that we see with people using our solution. Okay. Claudia, there you go. So why do we care so much about in-force management? Our mission is really to make it easier for everyone in the industry to protect the policyholders and beneficiaries. We believe that there is a better way to proactively manage these policies and all these protection assets, whether it's life insurance or annuities. And we take our data, technology, and industry expertise really and put all of our ideas behind that so that we can make it easier, again, for you, our customers, to understand and manage those policies on behalf of those clients and policy owners that you do business with. And really our focus is taking the industry from what historically has been a very reactive process, particularly in the independent channel, in the independent side of the business, and moving it to a proactive process. How can we help you using technology and data and intelligence that we've built in terms of algorithms, and identify when you need to take action or when it's good for you to reach out to one of your clients or policy owners about their policy? So you'll see a lot of that in action today. And go ahead and go to the next slide, Claudia. In terms of where we've gone, where we've come from and where we're headed, right? So I think it's interesting to take a look back at, just how much we've grown. We've grown tremendously in the past several years, not only in our product, but also in the kinds of companies we serve. So we started in family offices and trust management. We sort of built on that for an advisor solution. And today we're serving some of the largest financial institutions and most prestigious banks in the world. And so really it has been an evolution for us, in terms of a love of the industry, a genuine care and mission to make sure that policy owners are aware of their choices, their advisors and agents who work with them have the information that they need when they need it, which has historically been a challenge for this industry. So, as we look to the future, some of the things, and we'll talk a little bit about some of these today, is, we're adding on annuities sort of as its own first class platform into the solution, and then also enhanced collaboration capabilities. So as we hear from our customers, there's more and more collaboration and interest in sort of taking a policy and opening that policy up either the visibility of that policy or the discussion around a particular policy and a policy owner and their needs related to a policy. So we'll get into a little bit of that a little bit later as well. But as we've sort of grown our solution, all of our customers, we've really also grown our carrier relationships. So today we count sort of over 30 carriers where they're providing sometimes daily updates of policy information for our customers. And we can, we have sort of in the pipeline another 15 carriers, and we'll continue to sort of add those as we add annuities later this year. We're also going to add more of the annuity carriers as well. So I think we're really excited about the relationships that we've built with the carriers to, not only get sort of initial data from them, but continue to work on expanding the data points that we actually get from the carrier. So this is historically a challenging part of the industry and always has been, as far as what carriers can provide, which data points they can provide, and really a lot of that's driven from the carrier administrations on the back end. So we're trying to be proactive with those carriers, making sure to educate them about what are the specific value fields that are most important to our customers, and the most action with respect to if something's happening on a particular policy. So stay tuned for more on that front. We're always, like I said, we're always working to add more carriers. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to the team on that. But really data access, right? And data access from the carriers is just a piece of what we do. So I think more importantly, when we think about how do we drive the right outcomes for our collective industry and the policy owners, we're really focusing on not only getting the data, which is step one, obviously, but more importantly, what is it that we're doing with the data? And that's really, I think, the other sort of bedrock of our approach at Proformex is really using that technology to proactively identify risk and service needs, right? And our goal is to, and you'll hear Amanda probably say this at some point, our goal is to really make the agent, the advisor, whoever the financial professional is supporting that policy, make them smarter with better information and more, more information around that policy, maybe that market, need for that consumer. And so really that's what we're focused on is, how do we take what information we do have? So even if we don't have the perfect information from a particular carrier, how do we then use, whether it's algorithms, whether it's machine learning, just product intelligence that we know from, sort of having industry expertise in the life insurance products at the product level. How do we take all of that information and make it easier for, our customers to service and support the policies they've sold and the policy owners that they have as clients? And so ultimately, that is, I would say, our biggest goal is to how do we get to a place where, more of that heavy lifting can be done on an automated level by technology and give advisors and agents and financial professionals the information that they need when they need it. So we talk about, what is the right next step on the right policy at the right time, right? Right action, right policy, right time. And that is our goal, right? And so we continue to just move forward toward that end. So at this point, I will turn it over to Amanda, and she will give you lots more information around our technology, how we approach it from a data science perspective, and some of the interesting learnings that we've had over the time.
Thanks, Kris. All right. So as Kris said, my name is Amanda Yoho. I'm the CTO here at Proformex, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the network of data that we've built as a result of providing an application for our customers to use, what we've kind of learned along the way, and where we see that going in the future. So just a quick snapshot of the network of data that we've been able to build over the last several years. We have about 1.4 million policies in the platform today that represents $1.2 trillion in death benefit and $45 billion in cash value. That is an incredible amount, all within one place that we can use to provide some industry insights and help power those kinds of, let's make our users
really smart with differentiated insights inside of our platform. We also have over 200 carriers with data that is currently housed in the platform. So how did we get there? We learned a lot along the way. We learned each policy is unique. So just because you have seen one policy, just because you've onboarded one policy, does not mean that you can generalize that necessarily to a broad range of policies. You really need to understand the nuance, and it often is at definitely a per carrier base, or often sometimes at the policy level as well. With those carriers, I mentioned that because there's mazes of authorizations that we've had to work through to make sure that we can get access to that information in a way that a carrier feels good about providing it to us when we have the authorization on behalf of our customers. But it wasn't an easy task, and it took a lot of folks that were here at Proformex being diligent and following up with folks so that we could learn exactly how we could get to the right person, provide the right authorizations, and then get that data on behalf of our customers and present it to them. Exceptions are the rule. So this is really just building off of those last 2 points. You should assume that the next thing you try to tackle is going to be different than the prior thing. There often are exceptions to the rule, and you're going to be more prepared for what's coming to you if you assume that that's the case. The next one, and this is really important, is that this volume of data sharing is new for a lot of the carriers. They aren't used to the volume of data that they're sending to specific vendors. They're not used to the breadth of customers that we might be asking. And there might be systems that weren't set up with this sort of use case in mind. So we've been trying to partner with those carriers to make a process that works the best for them and also serves the folks that are leveraging our application. And then I'd say one of our core value drivers, and I'll talk a little bit more about in the next slide, is how we bring all of the information that we've learned to gather effectively in our platform. So we want to make sure that we get the data really from anywhere we possibly can. We've learned, as I mentioned, exceptions are the rule. One data source is not necessarily going to capture the full picture of an individual policy in the way that you might need to in order to service that policy on behalf of your client or business partner. So we'll take data from typical data stewards and standards like DTCC or in ACORD format, either from DTCC or ACORD from a carrier direct. We'll accept statements or illustration documents, data via API or direct connections into some of those data systems. Some carriers might have a custom data format or provide us with additional information that we ingest after they've done some data expansion at our request. And then often our customers are sending us Excel exports or other sorts of data files they just have within their own systems. And we need to merge that into a single view of the policies that they have in their book of business. So that means not only are we able to read the data out of these different data sources, but that we can accurately and efficiently say, this is how we merge this data together to give you not only the most recent information on behalf of a policy, but we have historical information on that policy as well. So we can track how it's changed over time and help with decisions that might be predicated on how has that policy performed. Once we've brought all that information together, we can use it to do all sorts of things from analytics, predictive intelligence, real-time notifications to our customers so they know when things are happening, as Kris mentioned, right policy, right time, automated alerting, and flexible reporting, because along the lines of exceptions being the rule, we know that each one of our customers has their own specific business practice, and we want them to be able to fit what they need and what they see is most important to their business into the types of reporting that we offer for them. Okay, so we've done the hard work of getting all that data in the door. We've learned how to get it. Now we've learned how to bring it together, and we're able to get that full picture and longitudinal history of the policies that we have in our platform. What does that mean? What can we do with it? So this was a really interesting kind of just first look at what's the data that we have. And we were working with a partner of ours to just kind of poke around in the data and see what we could see. And this was a really interesting bit of insight that we came across in the data, where it sort of shows the story of how products evolved in the market. And we were able to replicate that just by showing product over time with the policies that we're seeing in our platform. So if you look on the left-hand side, that is more recent. On the the left-hand side is more recent. The right-hand side is farther into the past. And the percentage of policies that we see in our platform. The main thing to take away here is you can see the evolution in the market from whole life products into being dominated by universal life, then into terms, and more recently variable and index products. So it was really interesting and very validating to say, you know, we have this market data asset. We can use the aggregated information about what types of policies are out there just to say we can represent and we can reflect the types of things that market dynamics that we know have happened in the past. Okay, so now that we know we have this data asset that can show pictures of what's actually happening out there, what can we use it? What can we use that data to accomplish? And the name of the game here is that differentiated insights. So we can add enriched data sources to this information, whether it be through quoting what products might be out in the market, or maybe life event information to supplement the data that we have. We can use it to build predictive intelligence. So not just what has happened to your policy or your book of business, but maybe what might happen out in the market or within a particular book of business. And then the last part is really crucial because that's the taking action on those insights. So ability to drive behaviors and outcomes as a result of having access to that information. So one quick example, I know we have a lot of slide, we can kind of flip through these, Claudia, if you want to, and I can kind of speak to them as we go. So here's just one example of the kind of thing that we can do with our data to provide those differentiated insights. So we can take a particular type of policy, pretty specific, a term product with a duration of 10 years for the insured gender male in the age of 60 to 64, underwriting class standard, status non-smoker, and just create a distribution of how many policies we have that fit in that particular bucket as a function of cost. So what's the cost in premium per $1,000 of death benefit? And you might produce something like this. So then we can say, okay, what's the average of the policies that exist there? And Claudia, you'll have to press forward here in a few times. Yep. So the average cost might be around $7, but then you can say, what are the other kind of slices of this information? What's the 80th percentile? So 80% of the policies that we have are less, you get a lower premium for the same death benefit, same cost per 1,000. Or we might be able to go even higher. So 90, 95, 99%. And the reason that that's interesting is because then you could take an individual policy, and this is just aggregated, de-identified information for the distribution so far. But then if you have a policy, you can take that policy and compare it to this distribution to see where you compare to the market. So if I have a policy and I see, oh my gosh, it's actually more expensive per $1,000 of death benefit than 90% of the same policies that are out there, I can take action on that. Maybe there's something that's a better fit for my client, or maybe it's just enough for me to have a conversation with my client that leads somewhere that I wanted to go. But I found a reason to pick up the phone and say, hey, I was reviewing your policy and I happened to notice this given the market intelligence I have. Let's talk about what that means for you. Thank you, Claudia. So that's all based on the information that we actually have. One thing that I mentioned before was, we aggregate this data from a bunch of different sources because it's really hard to get that full picture. Even with all of those different data sources, we still find that there's data missing. And sometimes it's pretty critical to the kinds of decisions that folks that use our platform want to make. One example of that is knowing whether or not a product is guaranteed. So data feeds are often not including the kind of information that you need around whether or not a product is guaranteed. They don't often include things like a product name, so it's not an easy just see what the product was so you can go along about your business. And if you want to have a conversation about coverage risk, hey, I think this policy might be at risk of lapsing. Let's talk about what you can do. You want to know whether or not that policy is guaranteed or not, because that's going to change the conversation, or maybe even whether or not you reach out. So instead of just kind of leaving it out there as an open-ended question for our customers to sift through, we said, hey, can we use the data to predict whether or not we think a policy is guaranteed? So we can use the policies where we know the product is guaranteed to learn things about common characteristics, and then apply it to the policies where we don't have that information and see if we can reliably predict whether or not that policy was guaranteed. The plot on the left, don't need to understand all of the ins and outs of everything that's going on there. The main point is the fact that it's peaked on the right-hand side meant that we had a good signal to say we do actually have a pretty accurate picture of when we think a product is likely to be guaranteed or not. And we can integrate that then into the kinds of analytics we have, so we make sure that customers or folks that are using our platform are really honing in on the policies that are going to lead to the most productive conversations for them with their clients. And then we can take it beyond there. You know, we can talk about trends and policies that are placed or insured demographics. So if I can see in the market that this particular age range, gender, underwriting class seems to be getting a lot of these particular types of policy placed, that might be interesting, especially because our data is not pending or not applications, it's policies that have been successfully placed in the market. We have insight into owner premium payment and policy funding behavior. So what are outcomes given an owner that might fund their policy in a particular way in terms of the longevity of that policy or the types of policies they may purchase in the future? And then we have aggregated information on the types of things that are being sold or what advisors might be really favoring in the market at any given time. And these are all unique insights that we have actively about what's happening and really being sold and out there in the market, not just what's possible. And with that, I think Kelly is going to talk about a few specific examples here, so I will hand it over to him.
There we go. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. Stay with us on these because we have some really cool things coming, you know, potentially like speaker hype music and walkout music and that sort of thing. So we're going to make these a lot of fun and have a really good time with them. But thank you all for joining. Thank you, Kris. And thank you, Amanda. You know, I think as everyone can hear, incredible history of Proformex, incredible mission and vision in terms of what we want to do, and incredible expertise and knowledge and know-how around the data that we're accessing and we're ultimately surfacing for all of our customers. Incredibly difficult, incredibly complex, and leading to incredible opportunities. And what I want to do here is just spend a little bit of time connecting that mission and the vision that Kris talked about, as well as the data know-how and data expertise that Amanda spoke to real examples from our customers. Because we know that, you know, with all of the millions and millions of policies, the trillions in death benefit that we monitor, what we see every day is this incredible richness of opportunity, both to enhance value for our customers' clients, but also to help drive new sales, new commissions, new revenue, new servicing opportunities for our customers. And at the end of the day, it's all about generating that value for your business with real interactions. And so Kris mentioned this, Amanda mentioned this, but the right insights on the right policy at the right time. And it sounds simple. And some of the things that I'll talk about here on the next few slides, the examples, sound super simple. And that's the point. Can we create through the access to information that we bring you, can we help you create simple, repeatable steps to drive success from looking inward at your book of business? And there's 4 critical factors that we see all the time through all of our customers. Number 1 has to start here, and it's all about visibility and access into your data. And the nice thing with Proformex, you heard Amanda speak to it, but we're really doing the heavy lifting around getting this information into Proformex. So that's working with you on authorizations. It's working with you to request carrier statements and illustrations if that's the route we're going. It is working with you to bring in information that was maybe captured on policies at the point of sale. All of this effort, we want to work with you to create the most comprehensive picture of your policy info at one time that we can. We're never scraping websites from carriers. We know that there was some of that in the past from other companies and other folks in this industry. And so we're doing all that heavy lifting, because once that data is in the door, what we're able to do is to create actionable insights from that information for you. Time is finite. Everybody is super busy. There are never enough hours in the day. So much attention is focused on generating new business that we want to help you find and prioritize where to focus your time and where to focus your attention. And we do that by bringing you actionable insights from your book of business. And I'll talk to those 3 specific examples here in a second. The next piece, connectivity. And that is simply, are you connected to the right teams, the right individuals that can help you pay off all of the opportunity that's inside your book of business? And can you do that securely? Can you do that in a way that is time and cost efficient? Because ultimately, all of this, tying back to the original mission of Proformex of protecting policy owners and their beneficiaries, it comes down to creating engagement. And like anything else, it's very much a numbers game. So the more engagement that you can create around more policies from inside your book of business, the more beneficial outcomes you will create. We see it all day long, and we see our most successful customers and relationships take that approach. And so with that in mind, let's talk specifically about a few examples. So again, for us, information in, let's make it actionable. Let's surface to you what is most critical and most important to let you then drive engagement and drive value from your book. So the first example, right off the bat, when folks log into Proformex, a lot of them, what they're looking for, what policies are in a lapse pending status. And so this example here is one where a policy that was about to lapse was saved. And so this was a distributor or BGA customer of ours. And what they did, we have data feeds turned on from a number of their carriers. We have tens of thousands of policies in Proformex from them. And what they were able to do was very simply log into Proformex, identify through information that we surfaced to them in a really palatable and digestible way, those policies that were in a lapse pending status. And from there, they took it, they ran with it, and they created value, not just for their agents, but of course for the policy owners and ultimately that policy owner's beneficiaries by first reaching out to the servicing agent and then supporting conversations along the way. And again, it sounds simple, but it all starts with having access to really complex information. We're helping simplify it and giving you the tools to take action. And the result here was, obviously saving policy worth over $1 million. In addition, there was a new $500,000 policy written that created the premium north of $10,000. But I think even more importantly, right, if you're that broker, that BGA, effectively, you've just done remarkable work to differentiate yourself from your competition. You've showcased how you're helping your agents think about their books of business and how you're helping them proactively serve their customers. And that's infinitely valuable as we're all searching for ways to differentiate ourselves, differentiate our business and create value. The next example, again, following this theme of access to information, visibility and insights into important critical items, and then pay it off with simple engagement tools. This was a situation where an advisor using Proformex was able to identify upcoming term coverage end dates. And they would effectively, what they did was sort of create a report to capture, these end dates on a rolling basis. And they were checking it, every few weeks, every month to see what was upcoming. And then they were using that to effectively create a marketing campaign for their clients. And what this did is it created a gateway to meaningful client interactions for them. It gave them a really purposeful reason to have that meaningful conversation and ultimately leading to the outcome and the results that you see there. And again, the benefit here is across the board. So it's for the advisor, obviously, in terms of new commission, enhancing their client relationship, everything like that. That goes a really long way. And then, of course, with the client, right? Because the client's needs are being better met and being better serviced, and they're able to be in a position where their goals and objectives are being met on that ongoing basis. And so across the board, we're trying to create wins for each person involved in the value chain. Next one is, and this is where, so this example ties back to so much of what Amanda was talking about too. And where one of the areas where Proformex really differentiates itself is in our approach to data. Obviously, we've talked about that. And then our ability to, through proprietary algorithms and models, things that we have built in-house based on the wealth of information that we have and we're able to analyze and scrutinize, we're able to then surface the results of those models to our customers to say, hey, this policy looks off track, and here are the reasons why. This policy looks at risk based on others that we see with a similar profile. Here are the reasons why. And in this case in particular, what we found is our models identified in at-risk policy, a non-guaranteed VUL policy. This was a financial institution who had what we will call a home office, or kind of a home office team supporting their advisors in their branches around the country. And they were able to see that policy in Proformex. They reached out to the advisor. There's an additional amount of due diligence done, ultimately led to a policy review being done on that policy for that client, where the client was presented with two options. And you could either increase the premium payment, or 1035 in a new policy. And it led to the 1035 option led to a new GUL. And again, this is what amazes me about these examples, and what I think is so important, because at the end of the day, it is all about those individual interactions that are going to happen between, advisor, agent, and policy owner, or, BGA and advisor, those types of conversations. What's so impactful here is, all of this information is at your fingertips. Then it's about the simple and repeatable steps to keep paying it off and keep paying off that value. And what's great is having all of the complexity, or as much of the complexity as we can take out of it from a data access and visibility side, then surfaced and brought to your attention in a way that, depending on how you best need to serve your book of business, we can help guide you there, both through our technology and our teams, to say, wow, this is really going to be impactful for you, whether it's to benefit your clients, your policy owners, or to drive revenue, new commissions, and everything else for your business. And the steps can be really straightforward, and we can help you make them very, very repeatable along the way. So with that, yep, those are the 3 examples we wanted to go through. As always, the open for any and all questions, and we'll just kind of field them as we go, but don't be shy about reaching out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. We'll go ahead and get started with some of the questions. So I will start rattling these off. Kelly, Kris, Amanda, any of you all can chime in with the answers here. So one of the first questions we got, what has been the most consequential change to the software over the last year?
I can jump in with my thoughts on this one. I think it's really around our custom reporting and visibility into business across all data sources that customers might have, not just things that they may have uploaded into our platform, but something that we might have gotten on behalf from a data feed from them or a carrier partner. But that enabled us to build this really powerful tool that you can use to build reports on your data that meet your business needs. And I noticed that there was something in the chat. I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder, Claudia, but somebody in the chat was asking about like, how do we make some of these alerts on the current front page smarter? That's one place to start. And then we are actively looking to kind of build that in to leverage the kind of custom reporting capability and alerting that we have so that the alerts, notifications, and things that are important to a particular customer's business can be surfaced right to the front page for them.
Perfect. Thanks, Amanda. And thanks for getting 2 questions in one.
I'll actually jump in on that too, because it is unquestionably the custom reporting that has been a game changer for so many clients, especially our customers of ours, especially those folks who have large blocks of business. Some of our customers are in the tens of thousands of policies. And what that reporting does is let them explore and interrogate and evaluate their books of business in ways that they've never been able to do before. And it's one of our most heavily used areas, and one of the areas where our team gets significant and constant and positive feedback, because it's been a just the ability to dive in and understand critically what's important in your book of business and access that information quickly has been a true game changer for folks.
The next question is, do you do any type of split dollar administration? So we'll go ahead and answer that one here.
Kris, you're muted if you're speaking on.
Sorry about that. Amanda, were you going to take that, or?
I saw you talking. I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so there isn't sort of a built-in split dollar administration. However, we do have some ways that we can handle that in the system. I would reach out to your customer success person and they can sort of walk you through that. But that is something, if that's something, we hear a little bit about it, but not a ton. So to the extent that there are others of you on the line that really are interested in adding the split dollar administration, we'd love to hear from you, because I think we hear occasionally about it, but not, not really a lot about it. And the way that we prioritize what we work on is really who, the volume sort of requests that we hear on particular items. So that's something, to the extent that more people are interested in that, please let us know, because right now I think that's not something we hear a lot of.
Looks like we got a question in the chat also about in-force illustrations being automated with the carriers. If one of you wants to touch on that really briefly.
Kelly is our carrier whisperer, so I was going to wait for him to jump in on that one. But we are actively pursuing those conversations.
We haven't whispered well enough to get to that holy grail. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
but it's certainly our goal. We're trying to get a lot of this data as automated as possible. And first, we've really gone after, let's get as much information in the door with the existing kind of automated processes that we know exist. Then talking with carriers about, well, then we automate some of the more manual processes so that we can get that data in more easily. Then we're going back to the carriers and saying, all right, now how can we automate some of these manual things that we had to automate as a process? All in service of getting the most complete picture. Although we are still chasing, there is a benefit to having the actual illustration document that we're hoping we can also get via an automated process, because we know it's important for folks to have that point of reference when they're having a conversation. They would like to have that official document as well. But yes, absolutely. Well, we certainly hope so. And we're hoping to help push the industry in that direction.
Yeah, and I think to Amanda's point, the reality is some carriers, just in all facets of technology, right? Some carriers are more advanced than others, so we have a number of those conversations going on. The biggest hurdle that we have, or that we've heard, is just the how do we validate that the person is who they say they are, and how do we do that in a way that we're ideally not using social security numbers and things like that. So more to come on that. I mean, those are things that, frankly, for us, for you, and for the carriers, we're all sort of incentivized to fill out or, to figure this out long term. But, right now we're early in those conversations.
It looks like we just received another question here. How do we keep non-syncing carriers like Voya updated in Proformex? Once we give you our policy list with Voya, how will this be maintained?
So really, we're looking to expand the kinds of feeds that we have constantly. I know we're having tons of those conversations, but where we don't have those feeds regularly updating the data that we have, we really rely on either customer updates directly, either via a data export that they can send to us or a connection to some system with an API. And then also through those document requests, ordering and pulling that information from the statements and illustrations.
That's great. And I did see one last question about us sending out the recording. So Robert, yes, we will be sending out the recording. And just because I know we are running up against time now, I will hand it back over to Kelly and the team for a few closing comments.
I did want to, it looked like there was another question in the chat that I just saw. And so regarding enforced policy appraisals, and I'll take a first pass, and then I'm sure others will add to it. But the answer to that is yes, absolutely. We are seeing more, and we're having more and more conversations with folks who are interested in wanting to have their policy appraised and have it marked to market or a value assigned to it. Absolutely the case. So we're hearing that in conversation. We're seeing it on our customer side as well, where it's coming up more. The other piece is, we're seeing it from, whether it be best interest standards and regulations being part of the growing conversation, where if you are truly operating in the best interests of your clients, this can be a consideration that you need to be having with, this needs to be a consideration and ultimately a conversation with your client if it could be in their best interest. So we are undoubtedly seeing it more and more. And the fact is, there is incredible value across the board inside existing books of business. And that's for everyone from, individual advisors, RIAs up through, distributors, broker dealers, et cetera, into the financial institutions. And it comes down to having the conversation, engaging with the client or the policy owner and understanding what is best for them. And we're seeing more and more where those conversations can lead to some of the stuff we talked about today, but also some of the things around valuing the policy and going through that valuation process as well. We're absolutely seeing that grow.
And I'll jump in and hopefully sort of answer two kind of outstanding questions that I saw here also about what happens if we're not getting all of our data updated from a carrier, and what about comparing kind of this particular policy that has some time left with something new that I might be able to get from my customer. We are on a constant journey of learning and adapting to the kind of information that we can get in the door and the types of insights that we can derive from it. So we are always looking to improve those processes and add to them. On the carrier side, we have done a lot of learning. And I'm sure there are folks even listening in on this conversation about how to engage with the carriers. What does it mean about policies? Policies are missing here. How do you tackle it? What do you need to do? I would venture to say, industry experts in sussing out the kind of data feeds with carriers. We've done all manner of troubleshooting, and we can almost point you without it asking the carrier what the likely issues are. But with the next carrier we sign up, we're going to do that learning again. And that's just really to make sure that we're servicing our customers well, and that we're providing data in a very accurate way to the customers that we have. And then being able to leverage that to all manner of new types of insights and differentiated analytics. I know Kris mentioned this before, giving people the information to have those really intelligent conversations without having to do a lot of the legwork themselves. So there are a lot of very specific ideas. We'd love to hear more of those things. Please send them in to your customer success rep or reach out to us directly with those kinds of thoughts, and we'll definitely add them to the types of analytics that we're thinking about and looking to add to the platform over time.
Good. I think the other piece that we may want to, there was one question just related to, being able to sort of benchmark and review sort of quick term comparisons and for existing products and things like that. One of the things that we are going to add probably in the next 6 months, if not before, is the ability to sort of quote. So today, some of you can quote inside of the policy reviews. That will be something that sort of gets moved out into its own sort of own entity, if you will. So you don't have to be in the middle of a policy review to do that. And then over time, and Amanda, talks a lot about this, like how do you have the right insights and the right policy at the right time? Over time, I think what we'd like to do is be able to show you for a particular policy, what is the market intelligence for that policy, either new products, valuation, as Kelly had mentioned as well. So just so that, it makes everything easier having it in one place. So those are sort of the direction that we're headed. It takes us, it's going to take time to sort of get there, but those are the kind of things that we're thinking about, but always interested in hearing feedback directly from our customers. All right. Great. Well, thank you for your questions. If you guys come up with any more, feel free to reach out to us or your customer success team. They can help with a lot of information. So if you have policies that are missing, if you have questions, always just reach out to them. It's their job to sort of help you and understand at the ground level, what can we do to make sure that every one of you are getting what you need out of the solution. So, all right.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to our speakers, and just be on the lookout for that recording. You'll receive it in the next couple of days. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.